स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव। ओम गुरुदेव भगवान शिव शंकर भोलेनाथ कैलाशपति महाराज की जय। भगवान व्यास जी महाराज की जय। शंकराचार्य भगवान की जय। स्वामी चिन्मयानंद भगवान की जय। स्वामी दयानंद भगवान की जय। स्वामी प्रबुद्धानंद भगवान की जय। स्वामी शुद्धानंद भगवान की जय। साध्वी आनंद ज्योति जी की जय। सभी गुरुदेवताओं की जय। सभी गुरुदेवताओं की जय। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6 and verse number 26, we will see the mind needs to be dealt with. Yesterday we had seen Swamiji explaining Bhagwan's talks of yoga in sense of yoga. Now the mind needs to be dealt with. In verse number 26 he says, Yato yato nischarati manasanchachalam asthiram tat satato niyamayatid atmaneyavavansham nayat. Chanchalam, always in the state of flux. Chanchal. Asthiram, asthir, unsteady. Manaha, the mind. The mind is always chanchal, asthir. Yatah yatah, for whatever reasons. Nischarati, goes away. Charati, nischarati, goes away. Tatah tatah, from that. Etat, in the mind. Niyamaya, bringing back. The mind goes and it is brought back. Atmani, with reference to the self, eva, alone. Vasam, into one's own hands. Nayet, may one bring. For whatever reasons, the unsteady mind, always in a state of flux, goes away. Bring it back from that with the reference to the self alone. May one bring the mind into one's own hand. Bhagwan says, here the mind is being dealt with because it is the mind that is to be placed. Mind that is to be placed in Atma. And it is the mind that has to be contemplated upon Atma. And also it is the mind, Manasa, that goes away. Nishcharati. For the mind, Krishna used two words, chanchala and asthira. Chanchala means that the mind is always in the state of flux. The mind is just in the state of flux. This is the fact, the nature of the mind. It is how the mind is made, and it is good that it is made so. Otherwise you would become stuck in one thought. If it is a negative thought, you would never come out. So it is chanchala, keeps on moving every second. It just keeps on from this thought to this thought, this thought, this thought, this thought, and it has to be brought back to the self. Let us think about self. The mind being chanchala is also asthira, meaning that it is not at all steady, always being in state of flux. The mind is not steady, not firm. So both the word chanchala and asthir qualifies each other. Being in flux, the mind is not steady. Chanchala, chanchalavat asthiram. And being unsteady, the mind is in flux. Asthiratvat chanchalam. The mind itself is not a problem. The mind is not a problem, sir. Krishna further describes the mind here by saying that it goes out nishcharati. That it goes out is not a problem. That it goes out is not a problem. It is natural. Because the mind's nature is chanchala and asthir. It goes away from the chosen object of meditation for whatever reason. Yataha yataha. You hear something, the sound of a bird, perhaps, and you go along with the sound. You recognize it as a warble of a particular bird. And then you try to identify the kind of bird and so on. कोयल की आवाज, ये तो कोयल की आवाज है. कोयल काली होती है, कौवा भी काला होता है, कौवा श्राद्ध में आता है, and so on. The mind keeps on and on traveling. Or someone says something and off goes the mind. You don't even need the outside world for the mind to go away. There is a whole world right in your head. It is not why you have gathered so many lifetime experiences, so that you can sit back and enjoy thinking about them. Even from inside, then all the birds wabble, all the people you have here known do this and that. Therefore you have enough reason for the mind to behave as it does. For whatever reason, the mind goes away from the object of meditation, and from that reason, from that situation, disciplining it, niyamaya, disciplining it, you bring it back. हमें उस बारे में नहीं सोचना है, हमें सेल्फ के बारे में विचार करना है, हमें आत्मा के बारे में विचार करना है, हमें आत्मा के बारे में विचार करना है, हमें आत्मा पे विचार करना है. That is how you always keep on. It goes away again, it goes again, you bring back. आत्मा पे विचार करना है. Rather, you look at every object to which the mind went. Let that itself be your object of attention for the time being. And what you find, does it exist independent of consciousness, Atma? Does it continue to exist if you question in this way? No, you find that it becomes mithya and you get back to Satya, the truth of it, which is yourself. And if how to bring it back, you think about that particular object, that particular sound, the particular person, situation, whether that is independent of Atma. Is it independent of your thinking? If it is not, then it is mithya. It is not independent of you. It is dependent on you. Keep questioning. Question yourself. The entire Veda talks about the subject, object, action, instruments of action, and so on. And then it is the last chapter, it says that all that was said so far is not true. It is all mithya. By looking into that thought that took you away, the very object that took you away from the object of meditation. The object of meditation is Atma, the self. The thought itself along with the object is converted into mithya simply by seeing the truth of it. Therefore Krishna says that you bring the mind back into your own hand. Vasham nayet. As it moves away from you, may you bring it back to the object of meditation, meaning you may return to the contemplation of Atma. You keep on thinking that all thoughts are not independent of me the Atma. Atma is free from all, but everything else depends on me, dependent on. No force is used here. There is no force required to pull back. You just look at whatever took your mind away, thereby converting the object of distraction into object of meditation. Object of distraction should be converted into the object of meditation because it is Atma. That is how you take it. In other words, your attention is tuned from the distraction of the very Vastu itself to consciousness. Therefore, you have no problem. What object is going to distract you? By the strength of this practice of meditation, dhyana, yoga, the mind resolves in Atma. There is no question of distraction or false identity for the person. The mind remains as mind alone and therefore does not cause any problem. Then further Bhagavan in verse number 27 explains, one reaches the most exalted happiness as the result of meditation. He says, the Lord himself says, Prashanta manasam hi enam yoginam sukham uttamam upeti shantarjasam brahma bhutam akalamasham Prashant manasam, one whose mind is tranquil. Shanta rajasam, one whose impurities have resolved. Akalamasham, one whose life is free from defects. Brahma bhutam, one who has become Brahman. Evam, this yoginam, meditator, he indeed, uttamam, the most exalted, sukham, happiness, Upa iti reaches. Indeed, the most exalted happiness reaches this meditator whose mind is tranquil, whose impurities have all resolved, whose life is free from all defects, who has become Brahman through knowledge. Without knowledge, there is no Brahman, there is no achievement. The achievement is Brahman, the self. The self is. There is no achievement in form of any object. Nothing will be achieved in form of object. It will be only in form of knowledge, recognition. The error is corrected. And that correction of error is knowledge. Here Krishna says that Uttama Sukha, Uttam Sukha, the best possible Sukha, the most exalted happiness. Most exalted means there is nothing more better than this. This doesn't end here. This doesn't mean the Sukh ends here. No, this is the Sukham. This is the entirety. There is no beginning and end after this. You resolve into Sukham. This is not, even all words are incorrect to say this is the ultimate Sukh. Ultimate means that this is the last Sukham. No, sir. This is the Sukham. This is. There is nothing else. There is no other Sukha. This Sukha in such that it cannot be compared with any happiness or joy that you know. It is a fullness, Purnatva. That is the very Swarupa of Atma. It is the complete, it is complete Sukha. Complete, achieving the whole. Nothing other than me. Nothing other than me, Atma. Nothing other than is available, even for thought. I am is. In any moment of joy or happiness, the seeker sought difference is resolved. There being nothing but Atma. Even though there is an object or situation involved, take music for example. The music is there, the person is enjoying the music is there, and the appreciation of music in form of thoughts is there, vrittis is also there. In this music, Sukha, the division, the difference between the knower, knowledge and known is resolved. They experimentally coalesce into one whole experience called Sukha. And what makes the experience whole? Atma, whose nature is oneness, consciousness, makes it Sukha. Sukha is a word that you already know. Therefore, it can be used as definition of lakshana, lakshana, to point out the Swarupa of Atma as the wholeness, the limitlessness that stand undivided between an object and you. This undivided whole that is you, the Atma, is pointed out here in the word Sukha. Therefore, it cannot be ordinary Sukha. The Sukha you know is in moment of joy. It is not comparable to anything you know, because it is Atyantik Sukha. Atyantik. Absolute. Absolute Sukha. Uttam, ultimate Sukha, a Sukha that is the very nature of Atma, Swarupa Sukha. There is nothing else. We cannot say this is ultimate Sukha and there is another Sukha which is not ultimate. This is the Sukha. This is. Who qualifies for absolute Sukha? For whom does the Uttam Sukha reach? The person who meditate upon Atma, described here as Prashanta Manasa, Shanta Rajasa, Brahma Bhuta and Akalamasha. Again, as we have seen before, these words describe the person and at the same time reveals the result of practicing Dhyana Yoga and the qualifications required by the person before the knowledge can be gained. A person who is Prashanta Manasa, a person who is Prashanta Manasa is one whose mind is resolved, tranquil, from whom the mind poses no problem. Therefore, this Uttam Sukha reaches him or her. The person is Shanta Rajas, one for whom all the impurities, Rajasa, are resolved. Shankaracharya ji defines such impurities as fascination for things that are totally false. Moh adi khalesha, based on one's ragas and dveshas. Whereas the person being described here is one who is no longer in the hands of ragas and dveshas, which is why he or she is akalamasha. Kalamsha means a defect in terms of adharam, papa. Therefore, one who pursuits in life are not improper is referred to as akhalamsh. Such a person can become Brahma Bhuta, one who has the nishchaya, the definite knowledge that Brahman is everything. Idam sarvam Brahma, Brahma iva. And because Brahma is everything, the one who knows, I am that Brahman, Tata Brahma Sami, Brahman being everything, I am everything, Aham Idam Sarvam. Knowing this, the person is Brahma Bhuta. And this Brahma Bhuta, who is Akalamsha, Shanta Rajasa and Prashanta Manasa, gains Uttam Sukha, Ananda, in being the Swarupa of Atma. Because the knowledge of Atma, this Sukha as though reaches the person. In this particular verse, Uttam Sukha is the subject of the sentence, and the person it reaches is the object. Generally, you think Uttam Sukha Ananda is something that must be gained. But here it is said that it reaches you. The Sukha reaches you. You don't reach, Sukha reaches you, which is a different thing altogether. You become the object and Ananda becomes the subject, the agent of the action of reaching. Now the question may arise, does Ananda reaches me or do I reach Ananda? In fact, either way is correct, as we shall see in the next verse, resolving the difference between the subject and object. Verse number 28, Bhagavan says, युञ्जन एवं सदा आत्मनं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम् अत्यन्तं सुखम् अश्नुते. Evam, in this manner, sada atmanam, sada always atmanam, the mind, yunjana, uniting, vigata kalmasha, free from the conflicts born of adharama, yogi, the meditator, sukhena, easily, brahma samsparsham, born of contact with recognition of Brahman, atayantam, absolute, sukham, happiness, ashrunute, gains. The meditator, free from the conflicts born of adharma, always uniting the mind with the object of contemplation, in this manner easily gains absolute happiness, born of contact with the recognition of Brahman. In the previous verse, the karta, the subject was Uttam Sukha, and the object karma was the yogi, the meditator, who receives the sukha. Whereas in this verse, the karta is the yogi and the object gained is atyanta sukha. Atyanta beginning a synonym of for uttama. Atyanta sukha. Uttam, to complete the meter. Why does Krishna says this? Sukha reaches the yogi in one verse and the yogi gains it in the next. Does this mean there is some confusion about who is the karta and who is the karma? No. In fact, he expresses the result of contemplation in both sense in order to resolve whatever confusion there may be. Further, he explains by saying Uttam Sukha reaches the yogi. This we will see tomorrow in complete detail. It's a long verse. We have to understand it clearly. In one form he says, the Sukha is the object and you are the subject. And previously he said, you are the object and Uttam Sukha is the subject. The Uttam Sukha reaches you. So this is, we are going to understand the difference. Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.